This is the spot where the silk was sewn, so every time I have to grab it, I would take off my glove, feel delicately, do it slowly, well is it to grab it at the same spot. But the problem is, because then the whole weight of the hand and the motion being picked up just from that little leader where the very tip of the brim, the edge of the brim, so is curled upon itself at 180 degrees. But unlike here, see here, so see the brim in all itself is curled, but then obviously it is a dorsal brim, which means that the edge of the brim, rather than being a pencil curl like what they do today, whatever, they tell it upon itself. And at the front, they did tell it upon itself, but only it twins a little bit at the very front, see? This is very fragile, all this is doubled. I'm spinning it up from there. And after what happened after about 2 months of doing that, I realized, although I was not even theoretically wearing it absolutely every day, that the gauze, not just the silk, but the gauze was breaking. So this gauze, because it is made of gauze, which is turned upon itself, not just the silk petisham on top is fraying away, it is breaking. See? Try not to touch it too much. It is actually breaking off. So now I pick it up from here, and in no time, in about 3 days' time, already all that plush was gone. So I did not polish it because I did not want to. I like the style unpolished, and especially if one desires to do the proper good polishing, it is with spermaceti, which is difficult, and as that chap from the Silk-Plush, Craig, said, do not attempt it yourself. But the spermaceti polishing is very wax, so it will polish it for life. Unlike with the 1870s plush top hat that I polished with tallow, he told me, because I was supposed to send it to him, but I did not have the money because I wanted to repair the insides. All it is too small, so I would still wear it in the evening. But anyhow, he told me I can recondition that silk, I can actually remove all the tallow. But the tallow is bad for the Silk-Plush theoretically. It does more damage than it protects it, especially if it does not rain here. The good thing to protect it and make it constantly shiny and constantly placated, so it does not have to be brushed. Well, it does have to be wiped off the dust, you know, but the hairs would constantly be lying in the flat direction, and thus it would have the ultimate level of shine, plus the spermaceti itself, and the well will add the shine in of itself. But that thing, it's best to leave it for him to do, and also that means it cannot be removed without destroying the silk, so basically it is done for life. So if one then desires to have a more furry, like a fur effect, like here, actually here not so much, but if I were to brush in the opposite direction it would, that can no longer ever be done. Now initially when I opened it off from the box, the silk, I said looked like fur because it was so thick, especially compared to the older one that I had polished and that I had prior to that cleaned. Now, a few times some raindrops of water poured because I began raining it in November, and it did rain a bit, and I had not planned it. Hence why I had always upon myself one in my tail pocket of the frock coat and one in the back pocket of my trouser, lest I were to leave without my frock coat and to have forgotten to pick it up from my frock coat, a plastic bag. Why? Because you must immediately place it in the plastic bag and then place it upon your head. The Jews do that to their hats and their shtreimel, and I learned it off from them, from seeing them do it on the YouTube videos. Then, that is if you are caught in the rain, because these things must not receive any water. But it never got soaked wet. And all I wanted to say was, just from the sun, and being out in the air, and especially in the heat and humidity, and also having to brush it all of this every day. I only do it every week to remove the dust and, you know, to polish it again with that pad, that cotton velvet pad. All of that equals that the silk in about 60 days and completely in 3 months, has completely flattened it. It keeps on flattening and losing particles, because that one does not have special quality, which means although it is from the era when actually they had the best of the best of the best era Silk-Plush, which is not the 1890s, but the late 1910s to about 1930. Maybe, probably from what I understand, in the 1890s this would have been the special quality one overall. Perhaps it was not actually the same, but it would have appeared the same to the casual observer like I, not the scientists making it. But in the 30s they had better ones. But probably even the special quality one is at the end of the day. It is not actual wool, it is brushed. It is simply, it was initially a fair product. It is only silk, so it's completely flattened. Now it could have been protected with the polishing, probably it would have conserved it longer. But I explained the pros and cons of that, and then I had to say all the way to the United States of America. Now the other big problem I had not really planned that much is the smell. So basically I perspired so much in Dubai in that summer. And remember the leather lining, leather sweatband? It was light tan, it was about this color. Look at the color now. And note, in all the amount it had completely darkened, and now it is becoming dark brown. So I was saying all these sweatbands were dark brown, now they were light, and then they would turn like so because of the perspiration. And the smell is horrid. Basically at one point the smell was so bad, and I always wanted to do that at some point, so I unflipped it. And also in doing that, knowing I had to restitch everything. Since I had it, I had to restitch everything part by part, because the initial stitching, as Craig said, like on Sheba hats, or not the best of the best ones, rather than being done with the silk thread, was done with the linen thread. But I think this is silk, but the silk aged, or perhaps it was a nylon, and all the threads with a little bit of perspiration would start breaking. So every time I quickly took it home and did a bit of hand sawing, but then having to wait for it to completely dislocate itself from the hat and having to resaw it completely, which would be much harder. So I did it step by step. And obviously by the time I cleaned it 2 weeks ago, everything had been done, and I often check with a flashlight to see that no threads have gone off. But when flipping it, a considerable part did unstitch itself, but I had to try to clean it. So this is a removable lining, but I did not even attempt to fully remove it because it was so filled with perspiration that, and basically from the front part, because the front part is the bra, so all the perspiration gets stuck there. And then, although it is ever so slightly lipped here, it also went all the way here, and all that dye came off onto my white army trousers I was wearing then, because it was 44 degrees and I was doing shopping by walking. And so it damaged the warm merino wool. And also I was saying, I learned that it used to be a fashion, at least for their hats, to have a green underbrim wool, and I was completely wrong. Actually, as you may see upon that example, it turns green with perspiration, with water, and or simply with light, because it was dyed naturally. So all these hats, these antique hats with a green merino, it turned green at some point, whether recently, back in the day, whatever. Somewhere in between, it turned green. See, it is already turning green in the fore part, because there's way more perspiration. Now, the problem is with the brilliant tie that I wear, which is they're quite authentic, but not completely, but super chemical full hair product. It means that on the sides where it touches my hair with the brilliant tie, hence why it is flat on top, my natural hair is actually curly. Through time, it blocks all the pores. So that means, this is my feeling, but I think it is true to some degrees. Rather than some of the perspiration in the front from the bra being dispersed throughout the leather, it goes and soaks into the rest of the hat more quickly, especially the underbrim. And then, when I let it to rest, I don't let it like so, because otherwise, already the sweatband has shrunken. Because I have to lock it in the cupboard